back to Tampa Bay and turn our attention to the attendees for Sunday's game, spotlighting the first responders who received the golden tickets. We'll also dig into game tape with TEREZ, who will break down these high-octane offenses using augmented reality while also giving us a sneak peek of some next-level tech. But before we do all or any of that, let's start with the game's biggest headline. It is the GOAT versus the kid. No surprise that these two larger-than-life quarterbacks spoke this week about their mutual respect for one another. Let's take a look.
I think there's a lot of things that make him a great player. Obviously, his physical skill set, but I think he's got the ability to focus when the moments are the biggest and to deliver for his team. So that's probably the mark of any great athlete.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a young athlete and you play any sport and you don't look up to guys like Tom Brady, then you're crazy. He's the type of greatness that you strive to be like and to be towards as you grow up. And so for me, I grew up watching him play, and he's still here playing, and he's still at the top of the game.
All right, guys. The NFL could not have scripted this any better. TEREZ, let's start with you. Why do you say this game could be the most important Super Bowl ever when discussing the game's true GOAT?
Well, look, at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is amazing, and I think we already know that Tom Brady has established himself as football's greatest player, least of all time. But if Patrick Mahomes continue on this pace, there's going to be a conversation one day about, hey, which guy was better? Just look at the rings. And I think there's definitely a scenario where, I mean, look at this. Over the first 3 seasons, Mahomes is better in most of these categories. Now, I know it's a different era, but we do use stats when deciding who's the greatest player. And I think if they're close in rings, this game's going to end up going down as a tiebreaker. So, you know, look, obviously, if Mahomes wins or loses, he's got a whole lot more work to do. But I think at the end of the day, in a decade or so, we're going to be talking about this game as a potential tiebreaker for who the greatest player of all time was.
So, Charles, I'm going to go to you next. What do you find the most striking about this Brady versus Mahomes matchup?
Well, TEREZ is right. I mean, look, Patrick Mahomes is what he is at this stage. We've got at least a decade of dominance. I would expect maybe more watching what Patrick Mahomes becomes. But I think what's really important here is when Tom Brady won his 6th Super Bowl and then ended up exiting the New England Patriots, a lot of us looked at each other and we said, well, really, what else can this guy do? He's reached the mountaintop. Hasn't he already been to the peak? Well, it turns out there was still an Everest left for him. And that is this season right here. And I think what's important here is Brady is doing something that's not just frosting anymore. It's the apex. It is reaching the summit. And he's 43 years old. He's just changed teams. You don't see quarterbacks ever pull anything like this off. He had an unbelievable statistical season, and then obviously he makes this run into the Super Bowl. And let's not forget, he has the opportunity to beat Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and then potentially Patrick Mahomes. If we're talking about Mahomes 10 years from now, 12 years from now, 15 years from now, maybe Mahomes in his 40s, it's going to be a tall order finding a season at 43 years old for Patrick Mahomes to sum up what Tom Brady is doing right now. And let's not forget, he's doing this in a pandemic. Nothing like this could, I think nothing like this could ever be replicated again. I think that's why this is really important for Tom Brady.
Tank, to Charles's point, I mean, do you think we can fully appreciate what Tom Brady has achieved, not just in 2020 in this COVID year, but in his career? Or are we just numb to the greatness by now?
Like, honestly, I do think we're numb to the fact. I mean, this dude is going to his 10th Super Bowl, and we just talk about, oh, yeah, he's the GOAT. He's just playing another Super Bowl. Like, he's the GOAT. But, like, this dude is going to his 10th Super Bowl. Like, I went to the AFC Championship game my rookie year, and we lost to the Raiders, and they ended up playing Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, the last time the Bucs were in the Super Bowl. And so I thought, like, I would always get an opportunity to go back to the Super Bowl. That was the closest I ever got. Now, this dude, Brady, moves to Tampa Bay this season, has to deal with COVID. He has no offseason with his players. You have to play games with no fans. You get hate from people talking about you don't have a deep ball anymore. You get hate from your coach mid-season. You get the constant hate because people just hate you altogether because you beat up on their teams for the past couple of decades. yet and still you somehow, some way find a way to make it back to the Super Bowl again. And like, you just don't understand what this dude does. Like, we always make jokes about the avocado ice cream and all that. Like, I've been in the training room with this dude where he's getting massages and there's like lotion splattered over the wall like a Jackson Pollock before the game. And so this dude does whatever it takes to be the greatest on the field. And obviously it's shown in a year where we have to deal with COVID, a pandemic, everything else, and he's still the GOAT.
Yeah, definitely like Jackson Pollock vibes are what I'm getting when I think about this matchup. But I'm also getting Super Bowl 50 vibes, and not, just because it features a veteran quarterback trying to get another ring on a new team, but because it so clearly highlights the evolution of the league and the subsequent push and pull of the new versus the old. I mean, Patrick Mahomes embodies not just in his style of play, but also culturally and ideologically a whole new generation of player and fan. On the other hand, there's Tom Brady. We've just been talking about him for a lot of minutes, right? He remains a physical marvel. Compare his arm strength to, as Charles said, Drew Brees or Phillip Rivers. But even in those comps, Brady represents an era, as fantastically and deservedly celebrated as it may be, that may also very well be just 4 quarters away from officially being part of the past. So now you have a better idea of how we all view this game. But let's see how Sin City sees it. The latest from Las Vegas, Minty Bets and our Mad Bets crew, who have been tracking all of the money lines over the past 2 weeks. Minty and Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Liz. I'm now joined by Jeff Stoneback, Director of Trading for MGM Resorts. Jeff, I know you've got some big bets that have come in all week. Can you tell us a little bit about some notable bets?
Well, a very noticeable bet was last week we took $2.3 million on the Buccaneers. So that's probably the largest Super Bowl bet that we've ever taken. We have taken quite a few 6-figure bets on the Chiefs. We opened up the game as soon as we opened it up Sunday after the conference championships. We took a $100,000 bet on the Chiefs, $180,000 on them on the money line. Did take another $300,000 bet yesterday on the Buccaneers, and today we did take close to $1 million bet on Kansas City. So there's no lack of big wagers, and we still got some time to go.
Yeah, so the total opened up at 57.5. The public has been hammering the over, yet the line has moved down to 56.5. Can you explain why that is?
Well, the sharp money is on the under. The public is usually on the over. That number went up to 57.5. We're at 56.5 right now, and that number is possibly going to go down. I know there are places that are down to 56 right now. So if you are waiting like the over, just wait a little bit and let that number come down, and then you get a better number probably.
All right. And what is the best case scenario for the house this weekend?
Well, I can tell you what the best case scenario will be this weekend. Next year's Super Bowl, the year after that, every year, the best case scenario is the favorite wins the game but does not cover, and the game goes under. So a lot of people that come out, they lay the points with the favorite, and if they take the dog, a lot of people bet the money line. So I can tell you, I'll be my Nostradamus. Same thing next year. Favorite wins the game, doesn't cover, and the game goes under.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much for the insight, Jeff.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, guys. Now you can get in on the big game action with BetMGM. New users can place any bet on Sunday's game and get $100 added to their account. Plus, win $25 if the coin flip is tails. Just go to betmgm.com/Yahoo special to get started. Must be 21 years of age and terms apply. All right, it's time for our first break, but still to come, we discuss the financial implications of this COVID Super Bowl, talk about whether an asterisk title is really fair, and delve into the stadium experience of the future. You might want a snack to digest everything we're about to serve up, so here's celebrity chef Katie Lee with a recipe for the perfect game day dish.
Thanks, Liz and the Yahoo Sports crew. I've got a great snack for you for the big game coming up. It's sheet pan nachos, and even better, it's plant-based. So check this out. I partnered up with Gardein, and I'm using their beefless ground to make a great little saute. There's onions in there, cilantro, lots of good stuff, chili powder. And then I've got my sheet pan here with my tortilla chips and and I just put this right on top. I really like to do nachos on a sheet pan because there's more surface area. Black beans, and these are from the can, just rinse and drain, and then top it with shredded cheese. These are gonna go into the oven at 400 degrees. We've got some that are already done in here. Got some scallions going right on top. And then I'm gonna do some pickled jalapenos. I really like having something pickled on nachos, whether it's jalapenos or onions, because it's really good next to the fat of the cheese. Next, some shredded iceberg for a little bit of crunch. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of salsa. Just use whatever your favorite is. You could also do guacamole or chunks of avocado on here, some cilantro, and then a few dollops of sour cream. I'm gonna serve this right on the sheet pan so it stays nice and warm. How do you like that? The perfect snack for the big game. Check it out.
You don't know me, you feel free to judge.
Coming out of high school, you were what? 4-star?
No star.
You no-star recruit?
No star.
Protocol is injury and now you're gonna go on.
The players don't always get the courtesy.
All right.
You know, I gotta do what I gotta do.
Obviously there's some lines even ambassadors shouldn't cross.
Have you always wanted to watch sports on your cell phone? Highlights, headlines. You already got it all, records and everything.
No, I gotta win at least 7. Tom has 6.
And guest stars.
You watching The Rush.
Yahoo has you covered every day.
Captain, I hate your pick.
That's all right, man. I hate your pick.
Guys, enough. Welcome to Mad Bets, the Yahoo Sports daily betting show. You can find us on our Twitter page at Yahoo Sportsbook or on the Yahoo Sports app.
Look, if you're betting to get rich, you might as well play the lottery.
All right, Jared.
Morning.
What are you doing?
We're delivering live market coverage and offering expert analysis completely free.
That's great, but why are you in my kitchen?
I love what you've done with the place.
Stream free anywhere.
Tired of junk emails invading your personal space? Then try the new Yahoo Mail. With one tap, unsubscribe. Yahoo Mail. Win at life.
Welcome back to the show. The experience of going to see live sports changed forever with the onset of COVID-19, but adversity sparked ingenuity, and the Stadium of the Future has arrived with innovative solutions powered by Verizon 5G. I sat down with Kimberly ROMETO, the Chief Information Officer at the Miami Dolphins, to learn about how accelerated access and frictionless payment will enhance our return to live sports and entertainment moving forward. Kimberly ROMETO, you are the Chief Information Officer at the Miami Dolphins. But what does that mean? What do you do?
So I oversee technology and broadcast for the Miami Dolphins and for Hard Rock Stadium. So there's a piece of my job that supports the IT required for the team, making sure that the coaches and the players have everything that they need to be successful on the field. There's a piece of my job that deals with broadcast and making sure that what you see at home works effectively and that what we see in bowl is a great production. There's a piece that deals with traditional information technology and cybersecurity. So we have to make sure that the stadium is safe and secure to enable these great fan experiences.
So you are juggling quite a bit. And a year ago, as you were preparing to host at Hard Rock Stadium, the biggest football event, maybe the biggest pop culture event of the year, can you talk to me about how you were juggling everything to make that happen, to mount that experience?
Preparing for Super Bowl is like nothing you could experience. So it is a Homeland Security event. So we worked for an entire year with Homeland Security preparing for it. There were a number of assessments and hunt assessments, threat assessments that were done. There were cyber tabletop exercises. You have to plan for every possible scenario. But in a lot of ways, preparing for the biggest game actually prepared us for COVID as well.
How did you have to pivot? In what ways did the priorities that had started the year shifted given this new obstacle?
We went from having events at our stadium every day to not having anything. And so we chose to expedite our strategic roadmap. So we worked on a business intelligence and data platform project. We also worked with our partners, Verizon, to look at our stadium and how we could modernize it and what pilots we could introduce to help bring fans back safely.
So you mentioned this relationship, this partnership with Verizon 5G and the obvious tech that brings to the stadium. Can you talk to me specifically about the ZYTER thermal screening in keeping both fans and your employees safe?
Certainly. So it allows us to do passive thermal, so we can look at temperatures and people who might have an elevated temperature to have a secondary screening. We use it on our employees and our contractors, our game day staff today.
And while thermal screening is part of this process of keeping fans and employees safe, can you also talk about WICKET?
Certainly. So we're looking at a pilot right now, and really what WICKET is it would be expedited entry. It would allow fans to take a picture of themselves, associate that picture with their tickets. So if you walked up and your face had 4 tickets associated with it and you had 3 people with you, they would all then be able to enter the stadium in an expedited manner.
And how does Verizon 5G enhance that experience or that technology?
So it's created an environment where it's also ultra low latency. Before, with the compute power having to be in a data center, you would have to go multiple hops in order to get that information, and it created delay. So you're standing there and you're waiting for a result to return. Well, that's just not practical. With Verizon 5G and Edge, we can look at moving the compute to the edge, and we can return a result and approval and a please proceed and have a great day in milliseconds or less.
Are you anticipating that you will be at 65,000 with these technologies implemented by the fall and the 2021 NFL season?
We will always defer to health and government officials, but that is the hope, yes.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kimberly. I appreciate all of your insight. And I, as I'm sure most of us are very much looking forward to getting back to seeing live sports in stadium with all of these enhancements included. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're so very welcome. We look forward to having you here.
Verizon 5G technologies are not only transforming the stadium experience and operations, but other industries from retail to manufacturing to gaming and esports. The future of the stadium experience looks amazing. But the future of this game seemed cloudy at best when the season began due to the surging pandemic. With no fans at most stadiums and TV ratings down, the NFL has lost a lot of money this year. So, what will be the financial impact of a COVID Super Bowl? Here is Yahoo Finance's Dan Roberts to break it down for us.
Thanks, guys. All right, well, the financial story, to me, the big headline is that this was obviously the pandemic season. It had a lot of problems that came along with it, and yet the NFL got through it. I mean, it's kind of remarkable. No regular season game was canceled outright. A number of games were postponed and rescheduled, but no game was canceled, and the NFL got through the season. Now, at the end of the season, they have what I believe is a dream Super Bowl matchup for ratings. Now, let's start by talking about the ratings story. You know, live sports TV ratings were down for all the major sports in summer and fall, and the NFL was no exception. Regular season ratings, in the end, were down an average 8%. But then the championship game weekend happened, and the ratings really turned around. The NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game had huge ratings boosts for the NFL. Now, the NFC Championship game between the Packers and the Bucs, Brady and Rodgers, averaged 45 million viewers, and it peaked at 53 million viewers. That's the most watched NFC Championship game since 2017, so 4 seasons ago. Now, the AFC Championship game on CBS drew around 42 million viewers, and that was up just 2% from last year's AFC Championship game. So both of those went very well, and they both bode well for Super Bowl ratings. Now, let's talk about the advertising story. Of course, as I mentioned, the pandemic definitely hangs over this season, and I think you can expect to see a lot of ads that are very serious, that deal with the pandemic. Maybe they're emotional. Now, Budweiser, Coke, and Pepsi are not running ads. That's 3 of the 4 biggest advertisers from last year's Super Bowl that are sitting out. Of course, Budweiser parent company Anheuser-Busch will still have a number of ads. It's choosing to advertise Bud Light and Michelob instead. And then there's the price, okay? Viacom CBS is asking $5.5 million this year for a 30-second ad, and that's actually down just slightly from the year before, which was $5.6 million from Fox. Of course, that's a very slight drop. It's basically flat, but it's the first year in many years that the price of a 30-second Super Bowl ad did not go up. Now, even though it's negligible, and Fox got $448 million total from advertisers last year. We'll wait and find out the final numbers on how much CBS gets. Now, let's talk about the ticket sales part of the story. We know the NFL is allowing 22,000 fans inside the stadium. That's 1/3 of the stadium's 65,000-seat capacity, and that includes 7,500 vaccinated frontline healthcare workers who are getting in for free. So that leaves 14,500 tickets on the open market for regular fans who, of course, will be expected to wear a mask. Once we knew that the matchup was set, average prices for the get-in, or base price, as the industry calls it, surged by as much as 180% on some of those resale sites compared to the same day in 2020. Now, the lowest get-in price on resale sites was $8,000. Now, finally, let's talk about the economic impact for Tampa. As we all know, hosting the Super Bowl usually means big economic benefit for the host city because fans come and they eat in the local restaurants, they shop at the stores, and they stay in the hotels. But pandemic. Now, last year, Miami officials pegged the impact at more than $500 million for the city of hosting the Super Bowl. Now, I always like to give the caveat that these estimates are wildly ballparked and they're often very exaggerated, but certainly there is a big boost, for sure, to hosting the Super Bowl. Now, that said, the city is still going to see an impact. It's still going to see a boost because you do have those 14,500 fans. I can imagine it could be as much as just half the usual economic boost that a host city sees. So guys, that's the business story here. It was the pandemic year, and certainly the NFL's season took a revenue hit from the pandemic. But I always like to remind people that the NFL is the league that is the least reliant on game day ticket sales, on butts in seats. A lot of those other leagues are much more reliant on that revenue. For the NFL, the big money is in broadcast, and all those regular season games still happened. They still went on air. And of course, the NFL got a dream Super Bowl matchup. So in the end, it's going to be just fine, guys.
Charles, in your estimation, which strategy most helped the NFL do just fine, as Dan mentioned?
Well, I mean, there was a perspective change for the NFL. I think when the NFL crossed a boundary where it stopped looking at the pandemic for what it was and said, you know, we have to look at our NFL teams and say, we're not going to just move games for you. You now have to look at your rosters and a COVID outbreak and treat it like an injury. Now, there were a number of teams this season that became familiar with that, had players go down, had facilities shut down for the day. I can remember having conversations with people who were literally sitting in the parking lots of their practice facilities saying, I've been sitting in my car for hours. I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to go in today. That's something that when the NFL sat there and it said to teams, look, it's an injury situation. It went to the Broncos. You lost your entire quarterback room. Convert a wide receiver into quarterback and move forward because this is how we're going to keep these games moving on. That to me removes the asterisk. Or if you're going to keep the asterisk on it, make it the greatest season ever because it became almost impossible to get to the end. And even Roger Goodell this week said, look, the Thanksgiving Day game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, that was close. That was as close as we came to canceling a game. We pushed it all the way to midweek the next week, but we dodged the bullet there and avoided the extra week, which was a potential from the beginning of the season. So to me, the NFL just starting to look at COVID more from an injury standpoint rather than the pandemic standpoint helped a lot of teams push forward and keep this season on track.
Terez, you think that the NFL spent money to save money, and I think the numbers are fascinating, but can you explain them in a little more detail? Because the concept is kind of confusing.
Yeah, definitely in a way, right? Because, look, as Daniel said in his piece, the NFL makes most of its money through its television contracts. And if you miss games and you don't play all your games, guess what that affects? Your biggest revenue maker. That's where most of your money comes from. So look at this. The NFL invested in having the test to save them. We saw that pay off this week with the Chiefs and the barber, right? All the testing. cost approximately $75 million. And look, when the NFL spends that type of money, you got to understand they're doing it for a reason. They're doing that to save even more money, to protect even more money. So look at that. Look at all the tests that were given. Look at all the tests that that ended up being positive. It wasn't many. The NFL's insistence on testing and their willingness to spend to ensure that these games get played was a big deal, and it played a huge role in ensuring that this season would go off without a hitch.
Tank, you know, there's that saying that hindsight is 20/20, which is admittedly ironic in 2021. But do you think eventually, when we look back, that any of this hoop jumping will affect either of these teams' legacies?
I don't think so, because in Entourage, the great Ari Gold once said that there are no asterisks in life, only scoreboards. And I think that'll hold true for this game as well. I mean, we get it. I mean, these players had to endure a lot. We've already talked about no offseason where players, you know, normally build their chemistry. There's also been a time where, you know, players can't have their personal chef. They can't get their weekly massages. They normally train with other athletes, and all that stuff got disrupted, you know, with the COVID season. And on top of that, they had to play a game with no fans. And anyone, I mean, we know how much people like getting a click on social media. Just imagine how it is for a player to go into a stadium and not have 60, 70, 80, 90,000 fans roaring down your neck. I mean, that provides energy. That provides juice. Like, we're used to playing with that juiced up environment. And we've already talked about it numerous times. Like, COVID has impacted us all so much, but that's the key thing. COVID has impacted all of us. So no one's handing out cookies. Like, the teacher, the mom, you know what I'm saying, the firemen, police officers, everyone has had to deal with COVID. And so, I mean, we're not going to give out a little special treatment for a team going to the Super Bowl and winning. And so, in that sense, like, I agree that, you know, we have to give them a lot of, you know, credence for what they were able to accomplish in the COVID season. But when it's all said and done, the only thing we'll actually remember is the scoreboard.
I love an entourage ref. Way to bring it. I think what surprised me the most was that I wasn't surprised. I mean, there were a lot of doomsday takes leading up to September, right? About the lack of a bubble and what the NFL needed to do to, quote, save the season. But the NFL was never not going to have a season, friends. There is a reason that this is the most popular professional sport in the U.S. It is the ultimate next man up league. And the powers that be, they know that. So in the midst of a global pandemic, yeah, there were tweaks. And yes, medically advised protocols were implemented, schedules were shuffled. But at the end of the day, the NFL leaned on the power of choice and personal responsibility. They said, here's the deal. Here are the rules. You can opt out if you want, but we're going to move forward. So you get your house in order, because we don't care if, as Charles mentioned, you have to start Kendall Hinton in week 12. We will have a season with or without you. So it shouldn't be a big surprise that experienced teams led by veteran coaches featuring some of the most disciplined players in the league are the ones that are taking the field on Sunday. Speaking of Sunday, Raymond James Stadium will be at 1/3 capacity for this weekend's games. And 7,500 of those fans deserve to be there more than anyone. All 32 NFL clubs selected vaccinated healthcare workers from their communities to attend the big game, and 3 frontline heroes will serve as honorary captains for the coin toss. Let's take a look at how some of these heroes found out that they were heading to the big game.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for crashing your meeting. I am the son of the nurse, and all of you have a very special place on my heart. My mom used to talk about it all the time. It's just extraordinary work. And the reason that I wanted to get on this call for a minute to thank you all is I wanted to tell you that we want each member of your team, the 5 Waldermere unit, to be our guest at the Super Bowl. You will be among thousands of vaccinated healthcare workers that are going to be receiving Super Bowl tickets over the next couple of weeks.
You guys deserve a little time away from the fight that you guys have been putting forth. So the NFL and the Jaguars would like to send the 4 of you on an all-expense paid trip to Super Bowl 55 in Tampa.
Awesome. This is a PAC organization from really people all around America. What you've done, not just the work, you've given us hope.
I don't know what this is.
So not only you get a game ball, you're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Are you kidding?
Yes. Yeah.
You going to Super Bowl?
What now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I said that. You going to Super Bowl?
Like the Super Bowl with football?
What is going on?
Hi, Michelle.
This is John.
Hey, John. Excuse me. Are you Glenda?
I am.
Hey, Jenny. I'm Rob Higgins. I'm President and CEO of the Super Bowl Host Committee.
Wow.
I brought a special guest with me. Do you recognize this guy?
I don't. Yes, I do.
On behalf of the NFL, we're forever grateful. And so, Rondé has something special to share with you, not just the helmet, but something else.
The helmet's pretty cool, but with the helmet comes tickets to Super Bowl 55.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh my!
We're going to the Super Bowl! I don't know if you guys are ready for this. On behalf of the Ravens, we're going to send you guys down to the Super Bowl.
What?
Your unwavering commitment to your students during the pandemic has been overwhelming, and that's why you have been selected as one of 3 frontline heroes to be a member of the honorary coin toss at Super Bowl. To thank you for all of your dedication and your work, to everyone who's needed it and the people you may not even know that your impact.
I don't even know what to say. Super Bowl, Super Bowl?
It has been a really tough year. It's taken its toll on a lot of people, and I'm proud to be able to represent healthcare workers all over the country.
I haven't done anything with large groups in a year, so knowing that we're going to do it and we're going to do it safely is the light at the end of the tunnel.
It's been my honor to serve, the health system and the Kansas City area, and it's been really important work that we're doing, and feel very passionately about it. So, I'm glad that everybody, feels like we're doing good work here.
Oh my God!
We can't thank you enough, and we hope that this program will be a small way to celebrate you, honor you, and most importantly, thank you.
Oh, you love to see it. Joining Tremaine Davis as an honorary captain for the coin toss ceremony are nurse manager Susie Dorner and veteran James Martin. Additionally, presidential inaugural poet Amanda Gorman will recite an original poem about these 3 individuals in recognition of their tremendous impact during an unprecedented year. Woo, on that note, we're going to take a breath, maybe more than one, and we're going to take another break. Still to come, the story of 3 pioneer women who will make history on Sunday. Plus, there's historic money being thrown down right now. Would you put $2.3 million down on Tom Brady? The latest from Mad Bets, and we'll be right back.
You don't know me, you feel free to judge.
Coming out of high school, you were what, 4-star?
No star.
You no-star recruit?
No star. This protocol is injury, not going to go on.
The players don't always get the courtesy.
All right.
I got to do what I got to do.
Obviously, there's some lines even ambassadors shouldn't cross.
Have you always wanted to watch sports on your cell phone? Highlights. Headlines.
You already got it all, records and everything.
No, I got to win at least 7. Tom has 6.
And guest stars.
You watching The Rush.
Yahoo has you covered every day.
Captain, I hate your pick. That's all right, man. I hate your pick.
Guys, enough. Welcome to Mad Bets, the Yahoo Sports daily betting show. You can find us on our Twitter page at Yahoo Sportsbook or on the Yahoo Sports app.
Look, if you're betting to get rich, you might as well play the lottery.
All right, Jared.
Morning.
What are you doing?
We're delivering live market coverage and offering expert analysis completely free.
That's great, but why are you in my kitchen?
I love what you've done with the place.
Stream free anywhere.
Tired of junk emails invading your personal space? Then try the new Yahoo Mail. With 1 tap, unsubscribe. Yahoo Mail. Win at life.
And we're all back. Charles, TEREZ, Tank, and myself. This is Countdown to Kickoff, where we are just 3 days away from the big game between the Bucs and the Chiefs. One of the most popular ways to get in on the big game action is via prop bets. You know, you love them because you definitely have opinions about Gatorade colors and flavors. Glacier Cherry for the win, don't at me. Minty, tell me why Fruit Punch is better. And while you're at it, give me the latest on other popular prop bets.
Thanks, Liz. We're here to talk about some bets for this weekend. I'm here with Frank Schwab and Jared Quay, and let's start off with a big bet that was placed this week. $2.3 million on the Bucs plus 3.5 to win $2 million. Frank, what do you think about this bet? Is it a smart bet?
I guess if you got $2.3 million to put on the Super Bowl, it could be smart. You know, Tampa Bay Buccaneers clearly capable. This bet came in on the app for BetMGM. Just a huge bet, by far the biggest bet they had taken all week. I'm not sure I'd want to bet against Patrick Mahomes and spend 3 hours with a couple $1 million on the line. We saw in the AFC Championship game, look, a lot of people were on the Bills plus 3.5. I was on the Bills plus 3.5. And you knew pretty early on you were on the wrong side. I feel like the same thing had happened in this Super Bowl. And for the guy who has $2.3 million on it, it is going to be one nervous Super Bowl night.
I mean, I think he built his bankroll up by listening to my best bets throughout the season, and that's how he got the $2 million. And if I was him, you know, you got the 3.5, which is the hook, which you want. And I thought maybe he's hoping that the line moves a little bit so that he can get the Chiefs at maybe minus 2.5, and then he can middle right there if they win by 3. But other than that, I mean, it's a lot of money, and I actually think he's on the right side of this here. I don't want to bet against Pat Mahomes, but you got Brady, you're playing a team at home, and they have a better team. They've been getting top 10 picks for the last, 10 years. They got the better D-line, the better receiver core. Really, you're just betting that Brady's not that much worse than Mahomes right now.
I guess if it wins, it is a smart bet. Now, the total is set at 56.5. Tons of money is pouring on the over. 74% of tickets and 71% of the handle actually on the over here. Frank, do you agree with the public?
I don't, not in this case. I think that we see a lot of times in Super Bowls, it's almost like the first couple rounds of a boxing match. Teams feeling each other out, not wanting to make mistakes, getting a little tight. Tom Brady, his teams have only scored 3 points in 9 Super Bowls in the first quarter. He gets off to these weird slow starts. And again, with a line this high, the record for a Super Bowl for an over-under is 57. This is 56.5, right in that territory. You don't need a whole lot to cash the under here. I'm going to be on the under. We're going to see a lower scoring first half than we expect.
I'm with Frank here. I originally, when I first thought it was on, I was like over. But then I thought about it and I was like, if you're a defensive player, this is the biggest game of your career. You're going to make sure you sell out for every play. I think if Brady's down, Brady doesn't give up. So they may go over if Brady's down by 2 touchdowns. They may score 2 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes. But I like the under here with Frank.
I too like the under, and it is a little weird that people are hammering the over, but the line keeps dropping instead of rising, so I am on the under here as well. And the last and most important question of them all, the Gatorade bath. What color will be dumped on Andy Reid or Bruce Arians at the end of the game? Orange was dumped on Andy Reid last year. Frank, what do you think?
No, I have handicapped this. I've looked at the history through the past 20 years or so. Orange is a very popular color. It was last year. I'm on the Chiefs, so I got to figure they have orange on the sideline, right? But I think that maybe clear. I understand why orange is a favorite here, but go with clear. Maybe they grab the wrong bucket and Andy Reid just gets a water bath.
Yeah, maybe there's a little value on clear. Jared, what do you think about the Gatorade color?
You got to get sticky. If you're going to dump the Gatorade, it's got to be sticky. I'm not going orange because I don't think back-to-back will hit. I'm going with red. Yeah, just let's go with red. Let's bet the red. Actually, that's my lock of the week. Red Gatorade, lock of the week. No, I'm joking.
That's what I'm saying. I think red too because both team colors have red in it. Simple as that.
Might as well. Hey, tails. Go tails. If you're going to take a lock, go tails in the coin toss. Why not?
You mean lose your money before the game starts and then be upset watching the whole game like, oh man, I knew Mahomes was going to win MVP.
Well, speaking of tails, get $100 instantly when you bet on the big game, plus $25 when the coin toss is tails. Back to you, Liz.
If the last year has taught us anything, it's that change is the new normal, especially for women in sports. The names Katie Sowers, Becky Hammon, Sarah Fuller, and Kim Ng all changed the history books. And on Sunday, a new chapter will be written when Sarah Thomas becomes the first female referee in Super Bowl history.
What does it mean to be a trailblazer? What does it embody? What does it look like? Maybe it looks like this. You see, Mississippi native Sarah Thomas is a trailblazer.
Being selected for this year's Super Bowl in Tampa and being the first female that has been selected to do such, it means a lot to me.
Sarah Thomas's passion for officiating began when she joined her older brother at a high school football officials meeting.
I fell in love in that moment whenever I was taken back that you got to be kidding me. These guys actually get together and discuss rules and what if scenarios and just plays that happen and challenge each other. And it felt that I could give back in a sense to just organize sports. I love sports.
But after 10 seasons officiating high school football and becoming a mother, Thomas almost gave it up.
I worked a high school playoff game, and there was an NFL scout there, Dr. Joe Haynes. He got me plugged in with Gerald Alston of Conference USA. Gerald hired me, and my career in college began. I attended clinics. I worked in the UFL. I worked in arena ball. And then I got the phone call from the NFL in 2015.
And after years of hard work and dedication, she's now making history.
I never set out to be the first at all in any of this. But knowing the impact that I'm having on not just my daughter, but young girls everywhere, women everywhere, and I have to add in young men and men too. I know that I'm probably gonna get a little teary-eyed. Understand this is remarkable. And I'm truly honored and humbled to be a part of this year's Super Bowl crew.
On Super Bowl Sunday, Sarah Thomas won't be alone as the only female on the field. She'll be joined by Tampa Bay's assistant coaches, Lori Locust and Maral Javadifar.
I feel like this incredible wave for women has come, and I think we need to do it responsibly, but I feel like it just is going to continue to roll through, and I hope that I'm able to be a part of pushing it forward.
You have to individualize it. You have to make mistakes, and you have to screw it up in order to get it right. And I do believe that. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable, as cliche as that sounds, but you have to put yourself in those situations to grow and to allow yourself, even give yourself a chance to be elite and be at that level.
Being a trailblazer is a selfless act, paving the way for the next generation of women, like Sarah Thomas.
Do it because you love it. Don't do it because you want the recognition, but I think there's power in numbers, and when you start having more and more and more females, no one's doing it for the recognition. They are doing it because they love it.
Lori and MJ, both of whom were featured in that piece, are familiar with Coach Arians and his less than traditional style. But it's interesting because both Andy Reid and Bruce Arians are two of the oldest coaches in the league. Reid will be 63 next month, and Arians is 68, and yet their play calling is far from stale. Charles, the trend in the NFL is to hire young, but what does it say that these two older coaches are the last two standing?
Well, I think it's interesting that this week, that's really what both of these guys acknowledged. And they even took us back to before the season. Both Andy Reid and Bruce Arians talked about, hey, when we were talking about approaching a COVID season and potential opt-outs, it was like everyone was looking at Arians and Reid and saying, hey, you know what? Maybe go down and spend some time at Del Boca Vista with the Seinfelds and the Costanzas, you know, get your Argyle jacket, a pink button up, and spend some time playing some virtual shuffleboard. And instead, what happened was Andy Reid said, you know what, I'm going to begin the season with my face shield. I'm going to fog it up. We're going to take everybody's best shot this entire season. We're not surprising anybody. And I'm going to log what is probably the best coach season of my entire career, because everyone knew we were coming. They knew what we were running. They knew our personnel. And we're still going to put up a season for the ages. And then you look at Bruce Arians. Remember, he started this season criticizing Tom Brady. Quarterback God, you can't criticize God. He did. Right out of the gate, he said, Tom Brady's making mistakes. That's on our quarterback. They worked their way through that relationship, and then Bruce Arians looked at Tom Brady and said, you know what, we're going to adjust this offense as we go throughout the season. You're going to be able to put your fingerprints on that. And he even came out and said, hey, part of the reason why Tom came here is because he wanted to coach on the field, and he wasn't necessarily getting that from New England. So there you go. criticizes Tom Brady, in a way kind of criticizes the New England Patriots, pulls off a season in which, again, you beat Drew Brees, you beat Aaron Rodgers, and now you're on the precipice of potentially beating Patrick Mahomes and probably logging one of the greatest seasons in history for Bruce Arians. I think these two guys showed age really isn't a factor. It's about experience and having the right quarterback.
Terez, you are my numbers man, and I know you ran them. So show us those receipts now, because I want to see how much these dudes go for it on the field.
Because here's the thing. I think one thing we've learned about the Kansas City Chiefs, you can't beat these guys by kicking field goals. And I actually think no biscuit Bruce Arians could stand to be more aggressive in this football game, particularly on fourth downs. Look at this. 8 for 14 on fourth downs in the regular season. That's the third fewest attempts in football. Now, Andy Reid's 24th there, but I think if the onus falls on Bruce Arians to be extra aggressive in this game, because the list is long of teams who faced Kansas City this year and regretted not being more aggressive. You cannot beat this team with field goals. This team is 14-2. They've got the "we're the champ" swagger. You know, they're going to come in looking to make history and solidify their legacy. So Tampa, if you want to knock these guys down off that mountain, Tampa, if you want to keep this team from going down as one of the 10 to greatest of all time, 10 to 12 greatest of all time, guess what? All right? You better go for it on fourth down, and you better get after these guys and take the fight to them. You're going to have to take their legacy from them. They're not going to give it to you.
I want to piggyback on what Terez is saying, because in addition to going for it on fourth down, both of these coaches have to also be mindful about 2-point conversions, and they have throughout their careers, really, because last year the Bucs led the league in 2-point conversions. Now, admittedly, this year their success rate hasn't been as good, but we did just see BA go for 2 in the second round of the wild card round against Washington when they had a lead. And as for the Chiefs, Kansas City has a 2-point conversion percentage of 100. So I think there's going to be plenty of biscuits to go all around for this matchup. But Tank, you think this aggressivity isn't limited to just the coaches. Tell us about how veteran players are more likely to play loose.
I mean, you guys have talked about it. I mean, these coaches are aggressive because they have experience, and they've experienced the NFL through different teams, different lenses. And so through that wealth of knowledge, that's what allowed them to kind of be aggressive on certain plays and allow them to be successful. I mean, you see the two young coaches in the championship games kick field goals instead of going for touchdowns. And when you look at it from a player perspective, it's the same thing. The guys are learning the system. They're scared to make mistakes, because if you're a young cornerback and you jump a route and you miss and someone scores a touchdown, you may get cut, and that's your season and that's your career. At the same time, if a young quarterback keeps throwing interceptions, you know, you may get yanked and replaced and never see the field again. And so it's one of those things where it kind of reminds me of The Matrix, where the young kid told Neo, like, there is no spoon. Like, sometimes we get so caught up in, like, the system, but once you realize that there is no spoon, the sky's the limit, and that allows these coaches and players to reach their potential.
Another fantastic ref, Tank. You were bringing it today. But, you know, when we're talking about these offenses, we also can't say that either of these tight ends are inexperienced, right? Everything from their builds to their personalities looms large both on and off the field. Here is what Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski had to say about each other.
Gronk's career has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's going to go down in history as one of the best players that have ever played this game. But it's you know, it's a little bit personal, man. It's got to be that way. You know, I'm here and I'm playing this game to be the best.
You know, I got nothing but major respect for Travis Kelce. He has helped transform the tight end position. He has helped put the tight end position on the map. Kelce gets better every single year that I've seen him play in the NFL. And that's, you know, that's just respect right there.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that without Gronk, there could be no baby Gronk. But Terez, do you think Travis Kelce has the potential to surpass Gronk as one of the best ever to have played the position?
Yeah, I definitely think there's opportunity there for him to do that. And allow me to be very, very clear. I think Tony Gonzalez is the greatest tight end of all time, and we just have to acknowledge that. But for the 2010s, both those guys were the all-decade tight ends. And believe it or not, they're the same age at 31. And if you look at some of these stats, if you compare their stats at the same age, look where Kelce is. Like, he's pretty close. And if he has this production going forward a few more seasons, he will have a case for this. So I think this is a big game. We talk about these quarterbacks so much, but this is a big game for determining the dominant tight end as far as looking back in a decade and seeing, hey, which one was better, which one was greater.
Tank, from your POV, what do you think each of these tight ends does that makes them so elite, specific to each of them, not like on the whole?
Yeah, I'm going to keep this quick. I know Tony Gonzalez, he's the man I played against him. He was tough, but like Gronk was the guy who turned the tight end position to the greatest mismatch in the NFL. I mean, we talk about Derrick Henry, stiff arming cats and putting Josh Norman on the milk carton, but if we think back, like Rob Gronkowski in his prime was like embarrassing fools on the regular. I mean, I think we all remember that Colts game where he bench pressed someone into the sideline. I mean, so Gronk's skill set, I mean, made him a dominant player that all these other tight ends strive to be. And when you look at Travis KELCE, I mean, they're both the same size, but this dude is a physical specimen. Like, in the playoff game, I saw him run a snag route on Denzel Ward. I mean, he left this dude in his, like he made him lose his jock strap. That's all I wanted to say. I didn't want to say it, but we on the internet, so I can say it. But, like, I mean, he put, like, a fantastic move on him on the way to the end zone, and I think that you really don't see guys that big that can move like that. So these are two special guys that, even though they're still young at 31, I think both of them are already penciled to go into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that both of these guys are the same age. You know, when I think back, like 10 years ago in 2011, Gronk was the first tight end to post 1,300 receiving yards in a season. And this past year, 2020, KELCE became the first player at the position to clear 1,400. I think these players illustrate like the evolution of the position, because Gronk wasn't just, as you mentioned, Tank, the mismatch in the middle of the field who could run a deep route. He was also still a wide, got low in the trenches. And I think that because he could do all the things so well, his body took an extra beating. I mean, he said himself he's had 9 surgeries and upwards of 20 concussions. Meanwhile, Travis KELCE has missed just 2 games over the last 7 years. That, to me, is a little bit incongruence. And so I think that the evolution of the receiving tight end has not only allowed for KELCE to pad his stats, but it's also allowing for him to have a longer career. We are going to take our last break. Still to come, it's time to put our money where our mouths are. All 4 of us give our final predictions for MVP and winners of the game. But before we go, here is the best from the NFL this past season through the lens of our social media team. Enjoy.
I'm as glad as anybody out there that we had a 2020 NFL season, but I think we all can be real and admit it was a weird year. But as always, the internet stayed consistent with some fantastic memes from the 2020 NFL season, and we are going to recap the best ones right here, right now. Let's get into it. The memes got off to a great start in the 2020 season with Andy Reid looking like a damn Waffle House window all fogged up. He's doing the best we can. And as a man with glasses during the pandemic, wearing glasses that are fogging up my eyes the whole time, the tweets were good, and that's all that matters. Now, you know, as a quarterback, you probably did not have a very good season when the highlight of your campaign was a GIF, and that's exactly what happened when Cam Newton slid off the bench for the New England Patriots, reacting to something that one of his teammates said. It was spliced up with plenty of people throughout the year. It was a great reaction point for about a week, and then, as always with memes, they get overplayed. No one could have imagined that we'd at any point see this monstrous 6'4", 220-plus pound behemoth of DK Metcalf chase down a guy who looked like he was this close, like a straight lock, to taking an interception back for a touchdown and Buda Baker. Could you imagine if that was you and you saw DK Metcalf just running back, like you turned over your shoulder and you saw that about to happen to you? There's no question I would pee my pants. We knew the virtual draft for the 2020 class was gonna feel a little weird. Uncle Roger got more and more comfortable as the process went on. Night 1, he's in his suit, sports coat, the whole deal. But then he's like leaning back in his chair. At one point, he's just out there in a t-shirt. It's like, yeah, as the prospects become less interesting, so does my wardrobe. You know, as the Buccaneers head to the Super Bowl, it's fun to take a look back at the moment when all the haters thought, well, This Tom Brady experiment was doomed. Unfortunately, folks, this was actually Tom Brady in a weak moment here, reminding you that he was going to win not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 games in the postseason, and that 4th one might just be the Super Bowl. Tom Brady still wins.
You don't know me, you feel free to judge.
Coming out of high school, you were what? 4-star?
No star.
You no-star recruit?
No star.
Protocol is injury, now you're gonna go on.
The players don't always get the courtesy.
All right.
You know, I gotta do what I gotta do.
Obviously, there's some lines even ambassadors shouldn't cross.
Have you always wanted to watch sports on your cell phone? Highlights. Headlines. You already got it all, records and everything.
No, I gotta win at least 7. Tom has 6.
And guest stars.
You watching The Rush.
Yahoo has you covered every day.
Captain, I hate your pick.
That's all right, man. I hate your pick.
Guys, enough. Welcome to Mad Bets, the Yahoo Sports daily betting show. You can find us on our Twitter page at Yahoo Sportsbook or on the Yahoo Sports app.
Look, if you're betting to get rich, you might as well play the lottery.
All right, Jared.
Morning.
What are you doing?
We're delivering live market coverage and offering expert analysis completely free.
That's great, but why are you in my kitchen?
I love what you've done with the place.
Stream free anywhere.
Tired of junk emails invading your personal space? Then try the new Yahoo Mail. With one tap, unsubscribe. Yahoo Mail. Win at life.
And welcome back. During this postseason runs, both of these teams have received amazing performances from several players. Sunday, the stakes are even higher on the biggest stage in sports. So, which players have the capability to rise to the challenge and become MVP of Super Bowl 55? We'll find out, presented by Honda. All right, Charles, we're starting with you. Who is your MVP?
Well, of course, after we spent the entire 2 weeks talking about the quarterbacks, I'm going to go away from that position. And look, I'm dialing it back a couple of years ago. I remember going into the Los Angeles Rams, New England Patriots matchup. All I heard about Julian Edelman was, hey, you know what? The Rams, they can roll a safety onto him. They can roll a corner. Hey, maybe it's Aqib Talib. And all Julian Edelman did was chop them up and show that mismatches are really what matters in a Super Bowl. And I think really, I'm going to pick Travis KELCE here. And here's why. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are sitting there, and the 269 yards and 3 touchdowns of Tyreek Hill earlier in the season has dominated the mindset of how they want to approach this game. Todd Bowles wants to approach this game as defensive coordinator. I think Tyreek Hill is going to get so much attention in this game that it's going to allow Travis KELCE to have a lot of one-on-one matchups with turn-and-run linebackers, which is great. But as we've seen, Travis KELCE, the best pass-catching tight end in NFL history this season. I think KELCE goes off, pulls an Edelman and wins MVP, despite all the talk about the quarterbacks.
All right, Terez, what about you?
Well, I like being correct. And I think when you go 2 weeks and you're talking about the quarterback, and there's talk about the quarterback, what that means is that the quarterbacks are obviously going to play a huge role in this game. And I think for either team to win the game, their quarterback's going to have to play well, right? And just to me, you go back and you look at the history of the game. I went back and tracked in past 54 Super Bowls, 30 of the Super Bowl MVPs were quarterbacks. So that's 55%. I like those odds. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes. And look, it could be Tom Brady if the Bucs win, but I feel comfortable going with the quarterback there. I think Mahomes has proven to be the most difficult matchup in football. You can't blitz him. If you play zone, he'll go up and down the field. The Bucs have a significant challenge, and he's had 2 weeks to rest that toe. And reports are good that he looks good in practice. So I feel good going with Mahomes. As somebody who's watched every game in his career, I know that's not somebody that you want to be hoping fails. Just trust me, you don't want to be on that boat.
Terez always bringing the stats to back the facts. I love it. Tank, who you got?
Man, like, honestly, I got to say, I agree with C-Rob's take wholeheartedly. Like, I believe that the Bucs are going to be focused on Tyreek Hill. I think Travis Kelce goes off, but at the same time, unless Travis Kelce dunks on Tom Brady in the fourth quarter after, like, hitting the grand slam, there's no way that dude is winning MVP. Like, the NFL loves quarterbacks, and there's no way they have the dream matchup of Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes and one of those dudes not winning the game, man. I always call Patrick Mahomes the third splash brother behind Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, just because when that dude gets hot, I mean, it's like nothing that we've ever seen before. And I think he does that in this Super Bowl, and he wins MVP. Sorry, C-Rob.
Well, he's not the only person you're going to have to apologize to, because I like being correct, but I also like being interesting here. You know, I don't even want any of these players. My heart really wants to go with the Honey Badger, because the connective tissue between him and Arians and Bowles is a content creator's chef's kiss. But, spoiler, I'm not so sure the Chiefs win. And while a Tampa Bay victory would likely ensure a 5th MVP title for TB12, there is no denying how the play of JPP and Shaq Barrett got the Bucs to the big dance in the first place. Jason Pierre-Paul, though, he was a big reason the Giants were able to foil Tom Brady in Super Bowl 46, so I like how all that comes together. He obviously also has a tremendous comeback story, so my interesting MVP pick is JPP. But regardless of which of us are correct, there are several excellent options that rise to the challenge, just like the rugged truck and SUV lineup from Honda. The Honda Ridgeline, Passport, and Pilot are built for strength, endurance, and powerful off-road capability that will blow you away. All right, we have talked so much about these two quarterbacks, but now let's check the tape with TEREZ using state-of-the-art AR technology so we can better understand why each of these offenses is so hard to defend.
Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. The great Santana Moss once said it, and nowhere is this saying more accurate than in the Super Bowl. Specifically, this Super Bowl between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And with all eyes on each team's dynamic offenses, I'm going to be joined this week by 3-time All-Pro cornerback Chris Harris Jr. of the Los Angeles Chargers, just to take a look at each team's offensive X-Factor. Tyreek Hill's juice in the slot for the Chiefs, and Tom Brady's play-action mastery for the Bucs. So, let's check the tape this week with some state-of-the-art augmented reality to break it down. The Bucs possess the league's third-ranked offense in terms of DVOA, and a big reason for that is Tom Brady's excellence on play action, where his passer rating skyrockets from 96.6 on regular plays, which is 12th in the league, to 124.4 on play action, which is 3rd in the league according to Pro Football Focus.
His fakes, I mean, I remember when I was a rookie, he got me on the play action one time, him and Welker. Welker came off like he was blocking, and then he just ran to the sideline to the end zone. But like, it was all Tom because of his play fake.
Okay, here's an example. NFC Championship game, and it's 1st and goal at the Packers 8. The Bucs are in a heavy formation with 6 offensive linemen and 2 tight ends. It is reasonable to assume as a safety that they're running the football. And that's what Packers safety Adrian Amos assumes too, especially given the way Brady manipulates him by selling the heck out of this like it's a run.
Safety, you want to have great eyes with the O-line, but the first thing you look at is the receiver. Since he didn't block the corner, you stay deep. If you had blocked number 23, then he could shoot the gap, but he never blocked the corner, so then you stay deep. If he had solid eyes, he would have seen the guy running straight up. So it was definitely Tom Brady being able to sell the fake for sure.
Brady would need to execute like this against a Chiefs team they hit for a few big plays on play action in their 3-point Week 12 loss to Kansas City, even though the fact they fell behind early blunted the effectiveness of it somewhat. And guys, that's something they simply can't afford to have happen again, especially given the strength of this Chiefs' second-ranked offense in terms of DVOA. Which the Bucs also learned firsthand when they surrendered 13 catches for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns to Hill, as he repeatedly burned Todd Bowles' man and one high heavy coverage in Week 12.
Those guys in the Bucs, they seen what happened in the first game. They came out aggressive. They were blitzing a lot. And that's not a good game plan going into playing the Chiefs.
One way the Chiefs will test the Bucs is by putting Hill in the slot, where he has the 5th most yards in the league and 2nd most touchdowns.
Here's an example from the AFC Championship game of why he's so lethal there, especially against one high. Alright, it's 2nd and 10 and the Chiefs are running a simple RPO. Both Harris and Tony Romo, who was calling this game for CBS, knew this was coming because whenever the Chiefs have 4 skill players on the same side of the formation, that's what they like to do. But even if you know it's coming, that doesn't mean it's easy to stop, especially in this defensive formation with only one deep safety. And when Hill gets the ball in this one-on-one coverage, that makes this a track meet, one you will lose against Tyreek Hill, which again, the Bucs found out a couple months ago.
As fast as I've seen play in the NFL, you know, my 31 years, it definitely makes it tough, man. You got to be able to be good in the slot. You can't do it all game. You got to pick and choose and try to disguise it and trick Andy Reid when you can play man. So that's what we try to do. We try to sprinkle it in. We're going to still run man versus Chiefs, but we got to sprinkle it in a little bit.
And that's what I expect the Bucs to try to do this time. Because if they don't, Hill could have another huge day, and the Bucs could find themselves down early, once again limiting the effectiveness of their quarterback's greatest tool, the play action.
Oh, those play breakdowns look cool. I like that. You can experience those too, and many more with Play AR in the Yahoo Sports app. Every game has simulated replays of key plays in augmented reality, so you can see every single angle. Go ahead and try it today. All right, guys, we have discussed every single angle and aspect of this game, so it's time to go public with our predictions. Does Tom Brady get that 7th ring, or does Patrick Mahomes make it back-to-back? Thankfully, my high school experience has made me very comfortable with being unpopular, so I'm gonna go first. All show long, we have talked about this game being a potential baton passing on numerous levels. But Tom Brady and this iteration of the Bucs have repeatedly shown us that they're not interested in handing anything off. In Week 12, when these two teams met over the regular season, the Chiefs won by 3 points. Okay, fine. But in that game, the Bucs pressured Mahomes to the tune of 12 hurries. For context, Mahomes only recorded double-digit hurries 3 times all season against the Chargers in overtime and the Saints in Week 15. He was also sacked by both my boy JPP and Shaq Barrett in that game. And that was before his toe issue and while Eric Fisher was still available to protect his blind side. Listen, I know that trench talk can be dry and nobody wants to go there, but the Chiefs squad that is taking the field on Sunday will be without three of the old linemen that they won a Super Bowl with a year ago. Todd Bowles is gonna bring the heat, and Tom Brady is still a cunning chess master with ice water running through his veins. I am taking Tampa Bay with a final score of 33-30. Charles, go ahead and tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, first off, you picked the defensive end to win the MVP, and I mean, I gotta assume you are the one who placed the $2.3 million bet on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if you really believe that a defensive end is going to win MVP. Yeah, we're off the rails here. I gave up my pick, obviously, when I picked Travis KELCE to win MVP. I think this is the Chiefs game. I think speed creates mismatches in the Super Bowl. And although everyone says, hey, Tampa Bay's got that better wide receiving core, I look at guys like Sammy Watkins. If you think he doesn't make a difference in the Super Bowl, go back and look last year, okay? Mecole Hardman, I know it hasn't been the greatest season ever, but this is the kind of game where somebody who we don't expect to be on track creates a big explosive presence in a Super Bowl. And then, of course, we have Tyreek Hill and Travis KELCE, who have proven to be almost uncoverable over the course of the season. I'm sorry, but I love that Tampa Bay front, the defensive front, no doubt about it. But I look at the back end of that defense, and I just don't know how they single coverage all these guys. And if they want to go zone, TEREZ said it earlier in the show, Patrick Mahomes loves zone, chops it up, and he's had a healthy week of practice. The toe is fine. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to come out. He's going to have a big game. All those speedy weapons are going to make a huge difference against that Tampa Bay secondary. I see this being a Chiefs game, 31-24.
Someone unexpected, huh? Okay. Well, TEREZ, go ahead and pile it on.
Oh, you can better believe I'm going to do that, Liz. Now, first of all, I'll be very clear. I think you've got a point. The Bucs have a chance to win this game, and it starts with pressure up front. Like, they've got to be able to win and dominate up front like the 2007 Giants did. If they can find a way to do that, they can win the game, but they've got to dominate to that degree. But my hunch is this. you can pressure Patrick Mahomes, but he's proven really to be unblitzable because of his movement, because of his off-platform ability. He'll just run around and throw a dart. You can't blitz him. It's like Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood. I drink your milkshake, Eli. I drink it up. You can't do it. Right? You go ahead and you try that with that guy. He's going to make you pay. And that's what I'm guessing. I'm guessing Mahomes is brilliant, provided he's still healthy. And the last 2 weeks for Andy Reid to prepare to counter that pressure is going to be enough for that Chiefs offense to roll. Screens, draws, and keep an eye on Clyde Edwards-Helaire or whoever their starting running back is, making an impact in the short passing game as a receiver.
All right, Tank. Terez is now dropping pop culture refs. Although if I'm thinking milkshakes, that's not the ref I'm going. Anyway, Tank, are you going to bail me out here or not?
Lizzie, you know you're my girl, right? But look, I can see a path to the Tampa Bay Bucs winning because obviously it's tough to beat a team twice, especially in the Super Bowl, which means the Tampa Bay Bucs are really good. And I can imagine Brady's going to play well. At the same time, like, the Chiefs just have way too many weapons. I understand the deficiencies that the Chiefs may have on offensive line, but when you have Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, and all these other weapons, like, he's going to get the ball out quick. So I don't really worry about the pressure too much. I worry about the pressure on the other side. Like, Chris Jones is a monster on that defensive line for Kansas City. And he and Brady were already talking noise in the first matchup, so I expect him to bring the heat this game. And if he does, your boy, the Honey Badger, who was probably like one of your sneaky MVP picks, if you figured that Kansas City was going to win, I see him getting an interception or two maybe in this game. So, therefore, competitive game, Chiefs win it 34-30.
Well, regardless of who wins this game, we all agree that it is going to be close and it is going to be good. And that is all the time we have for tonight. Kickoff to Super Bowl 55 is less than 70 hours away. And remember, you can watch the game right here on the Yahoo Sports mobile app. Thank you for joining us, everyone. For Charles, Terez, Tank, and Minty, I'm Liz Loza. Goodbye and enjoy the game.